you name your group Race, Culture, and Mass Media?
Okay. Well, I named my group Race, Culture, and Mass Media after a class that I took when I was in high school. I was a part of a program called Youth Action Scholars when I was in ninth grade. And my third year in that program, I took a class called Race, Culture, and Mass Media, and it forever changed my life. So I always said if I had the chance to reteach the things that I learned, I would do so. Race is defined as a classification of human beings, which is a way of, categorizing individuals. So if you're black, you are often black because of the texture of your hair, the color of your skin, the shape of your eyes, or your ancestral lineage. But these are all social constructs that someone put in place, because if I am both Chinese and black, more black than Chinese. So culture is defined as a set of shared attitudes or behaviors or social learning practices and goals. So race and culture are two separate entities. Like I could be black by race, but I could be a part of hip-hop culture, I could be a part of pop culture, I could be a part of youth culture, where I identify with a group of individuals who share my same values, or my same interests that isn't defined specifically by my race. And mass media is a means of getting across these different images. So the identity of race, the identity of black race, the identity of white race, the identity of the Hispanic race is spread across this country, across the world through means of mass media, through the internet, through newspaper, and through television. Because if the idea of race wasn't spread and built upon, and it wasn't socially accepted, no one would accept the term race, and no one would identify as black, white, or other. The same with culture. If the idea of hip-hop culture wasn't so widespread, if the dress, the clothes, the language, etc. wasn't so profound, it wouldn't exist. So mass media is a means of spreading these social constructs.
How do you think race and culture is portrayed in the media?
Well, I think at this stage, we should be identifying differently. Because when I first took the class, when I was in high school, it kind of changed the way I forever looked at television. Because I had viewed television as just entertainment. And my mother was very strong on educating me about my history and educating me about minstrel shows and educating me about how the first African Americans who weren't on TV were portrayed in a certain way and how it took a lot for us to even be on TV. There are so many African American TV shows, but through taking this class myself, what I realized was the TV shows that we're watching now have no content. And I realized that when I was in high school, and now I'm in college, and really I think the situation has gotten much worse. Because there's nobody sitting down and saying, well, that's not true. That's not how I wish to be represented. This isn't how my family was raised. This isn't how my people are. And we've kind of started to accept, or I'll say, maybe not all generations, but I'll say for some of the youth, they're beginning to accept what mass media is saying about them. And they're accepting it within the culture, youth culture, and they're accepting it as a part of their race. And I think there's a lot of growth that needs to happen within mass media as a whole.
Can you provide any example of how race and culture may be portrayed negatively in the media?
Negatively in the media? Okay. Let's say, for example, the old minstrel shows were examples of the stereotypical African American. So, you have your lazy black man, you have your chucking and jiving or dancing and cooning, smiley face and cheesing at the camera, black family who isn't necessarily successful or goal-oriented, but they like to have fun and laugh. And there are certain facial expressions that were used during those shows. There would be a slight pause. a smile or a certain buck-eyed look that is still used today. If you look at My Wife and Kids, if you look at Jamie Foxx show, Martin Lawrence. See, I stopped watching TV for a lot of years because it started to come so clearly to me that it didn't matter which show it was, whether it was reality TV. You had what's the guy with the big clock?
Flavor Flav.
Flavor Flav.
Flavor Flav.
Flavor Flav. He's the biggest example of 21st century coon. You know?
So what are some different things you teach the youth about race and culture, the mass media?
Well, over the course of the summer past, I fed off of my group's energy. Because for the most part within African American history, there is a set curriculum. So they teach you a little bit about slavery, they teach you a little bit about the Harlem Renaissance, they teach you a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but they don't really dive in and teach you the core of our history. So I started from the beginning. Where did we come from? So I started in Africa. Egypt is in Africa. Mm-hmm. The pyramids are millions and millions of trillions of years old. That is our lineage. I discussed the Songhai, the empires, how we created math, science, astronomy, chemistry, and English. How we were the founders of language. And from there, I moved forward onto slavery, how we got here, how we were separated from our people, how we were broken apart, how we began to identify with different races within our race. That's why you have the Jamaican, you have the Trinidadian, you have the Cuban, you have the Hispanic, all coming from the same central location. And I taught how, we are lost people. We come from so much greatness, but we have been taught to forget. And the secrets of our history are so deeply lost that we're grasping at straws, and we're grasping, in truth, for the answers from a people who actually stripped it from us. So I did my best, as the ancient Egyptians would say, to dispel the lies within history and to teach the truth. So I just kind of went point by point, and I tried to bring it as close to modern day as possible. I taught them about Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the basics of what's in history. I also taught them about Archie Bartman. I taught them about Assata Shakur, a lot of different freedom fighters. Anything that I could think of that danced across my mind is something that I came across as a youth, something that my mother sat me down and said, watch this, look at this, study this, read this. I made it my business to share with them. I had them watch a number of different movies. Daughters of the Dust. I tried to have them watch Goodbye Uncle Tom. It was a little too intense for them. I had them watch Serafina. Just anything I could think of that would strike up good conversation, have them asking good questions, and just going through a serious thought process of self-evaluation.
What did you want your youth to get out of learning about this or watching those movies and learning about the different freedom fighters in history?
I hope that, all of my students would see the greatness within themselves and fear nothing, and have a want for learning, have a want for knowledge, and just feel within their blood, so much pride and faith in themselves, despite all that's happened in our history.